I'm a program coordinator senior here at ASU, working with schools in Atlanta, Chicago, New York City, and Washington, D.C.
Hi everyone, it's Alejandro and I work with schools in Los Angeles, Phoenix, and Las Vegas, and I'm also a program coordinator senior just like him. And we're back here again for this video series. This is video 2, just wanted to make sure, in the series. This one is about design thinking. So just a crash course in design thinking 101. The first thing that I wanted to mention are just some examples where we've seen like innovation take place using design thinking, and that's like the creation of smartphones. Because you guys might have not been around back then, but I remember when cell phones were as big as a brick, right? And you couldn't do half the stuff that you can do with them now. And also things such as like Snapchat, right, that allow you to communicate with your friends. Apps like that definitely went through the design thinking process. So for this purpose, we're going to actually pretend like Snapchat doesn't exist, and we're going to actually walk you through an example using that type of app, and I will hand it off to Kim to explain.
So design thinking is actually a 5-step process, and that's kind of misleading because the last 2, well actually the last 3 steps even, you can do over and over and over again until you come up with your final design, your final prototype. But we're going to just walk you through the steps. So the first step really is empathize. So that is when you get to know the person you're actually designing for and getting a deep understanding of who they are. If I, as an adult and a grandmother, and I'm kind of an exception, I'm not native to technology, but I learned to program when I was 11 years old on an Apple II. So I've been involved in technology for a lot of years, but a lot of people my age haven't been. So if somebody my age were trying to design an app for teenagers, it'd be really hard to design an app that teenagers would really want. You have to dig in and get into the mind of the teenager because, my nieces and nephews who are between ages 8 and 17, they don't use their phones the way I do. My own children who are in their 20s don't use their phones the way I do. So I really have to get into their mind and start thinking the way they do so I can build up some empathy. So let's talk about, for an example, I'm thinking about what are my nieces and nephews really, they like to send pictures and they like to put stuff on social media. So it seems like for them it's really kind of like a photo journal is what they use their cell phone for. So I would start thinking from that kind of a perspective and I might even talk to them and ask them, what do you use this for? So I want you to just take a step back for a minute, and on the worksheet that you have, think about a time that you have had to empathize with somebody who is different than you, or when you've seen somebody else do it. Also talk about things that might be difficult when empathizing with someone, especially somebody who's different or having different experiences than you. So like, perfect example with this one. I started out using a candy bar phone, and I was really excited when I got a flip phone. So for me, a cell phone, this started out actually being for phone calls, and when we could text, I was so happy because I hate phone calls. So it's a texting machine for me, is what it became. But to really design this app that we want to do, I have to look at it from the perspective of the teenagers, and that's more difficult. So come up with an idea like that, and we'll give you a few minutes to think about it. Okay, we're back. So now we're going to move, now that you understand the problem from the person that you're designing for, now you're going to define really what is the problem. And it clearly identified it. So if we just say, we want to make an app for teenagers, does that really tell you anything, Alejandro?
No, it could be anything.
It could be anything. So we really need to clearly define it. So in this case, we're a technology startup, and we're calling ourselves CAL, K-A-L, Alejandro.
Great name.
Yeah, yes. I think so. And we decided we wanted to develop this app for kids. And so we just pulled in a bunch of teenagers and started talking to them. First time I talked to my nieces and nephews, we talked to his nieces and nephews, his little brother. And we decided, hey, we really want to do an app. Brought a bunch of kids in and said, hey, explain to us your experiences. And one of the things that we noticed is the kids kept on saying, it really sucks. I will take a picture, I'm feeling fat, or I look bad in an outfit, or, I'll send this picture to my friend that I trust. And they think it's funny that I look hilarious, or I look bad, or I have a bad haircut, or my makeup is not on point. And they put it out on Facebook, or they put it out on Twitter, or Instagram, or they text it to all my friends. And that was one of the biggest challenges that the teenagers we talked to for, is that they couldn't trust people they should be able to trust with images. So we have now defined our problem, is we need to develop an app that allows teenagers to share photos, but protects their privacy and the integrity of a friendship, and doesn't tempt their friends to share things that they shouldn't. So I want you to now, I've given you an example of the problem that we faced, and I want you on the worksheet to go ahead and define a problem that you've seen, or that you would like to challenge, or that you've seen somebody else deal with. Like we stole Snapchat for this example. So you can use another example if you can't think of one for yourself. And think about what would be difficult for you. So like back in our case, so say Alejandro doesn't have a phone, he does, but this will pretend he doesn't. And so him trying to understand how to develop an app for a phone when he doesn't even have one, that might be difficult. So go ahead and take a few minutes and clearly define a problem that you would like to address, or that you've seen somebody else address.
Great, so now that we've gone through step 1, which is empathize, step 2, which is define the problem, we're actually moving to step 3. So for step 3 is ideate, and for ideation, we need to come up with as many potential solutions to this problem. So as Kim already helped us understand, the problem is we want to be able to continue to share photos with our friends, with our loved ones, without them getting out to other people that we don't want them to, right? We want to instill the control in the creator of the picture. So in terms of ideate, some of the ideas that we came up with were having like a password that is needed in order to unlock the picture. The second one was facial features being distorted if the picture is downloaded, or if it's shared to somebody else. That way they're not able to clearly identify you in the picture. Another one that we were thinking might be a little out there, but
this is my favorite. Okay.
Is if they download the picture, right, they're automatically defriended from your social media because they shouldn't be doing that, right? Like
exactly.
A true friend doesn't do that.
Haters gonna hate, man.
Exactly. Or another that we thought of too is if somebody else gets access to that picture, then it just kind of self-destructs after a amount of time, like an hour or a day. That way, people aren't able to keep this journal of maybe photos that you find embarrassing of yourself and then use them against you later, right? So it kind of protects you.
I like that.
Yeah. Awesome. So now we've come up with quite a few ideas that we can move forward with. In the next step, we'll talk about how we actually narrow those down. But here now that we've given you an example, we want you to look at your worksheet, think back to a time that you might have ideated how to solve a problem. So maybe you were in trouble with your parents, right? Maybe you were trying to figure out how to get out of something. Tell your teacher, right? But think about a problem that maybe you faced, or you saw somebody else face, and they were ideating potential solutions to that problem. Also think about what might be difficult for you in this situation.
Now, I have a question on those. Sometimes I have ideas,
Yeah.
but they're like really stupid. Would I still write those down?
Absolutely. Get as stupid as possible. Yes. You want to make sure that you're not discounting any ideas just because they sound a little far out there. You want to make sure that you are writing all of them down, because you never know. It might not be the final idea, but you could maybe work something off of it, right? Or the next idea will be even better.
Exactly. And haven't you ever had a friend that maybe said something that was a little crazy, a little out there, but it got you thinking, and you came up with a better idea based on what they said? It may have the first idea may have sounded stupid, but from there, that's what got you to move forward. So write down all your ideas, and don't self-edit.
No, don't self-edit. Just maybe don't write any bad words. But write as many ideas as you want. So the prototyping stage, you want to make sure you kind of evaluate all the different ideas that you have. So in this case, we looked at our different ideas. One was the password to unlock the picture. The second was the distortion of the photo, so that way people can't know it's you. The third was unfriending everybody on social media when they download your photo. And then the last one was to have the picture just self-delete after a certain amount of time. So after looking at all of them, we looked at which one would be most cost effective, which one would actually achieve our goal of putting back the power in the creator of the picture.
And which one actually is easier to write the code on?
Yeah, because we're not that. I mean, you have a little more experience than I do. Our technology ability is not that advanced. We want to make sure we can actually make it happen. And the one that we ended up going with was having the picture just self-delete after a certain amount of time.
I tested that one where it unfriends everybody. My sister's still not talking to me.
And we don't want you guys to lose those valuable friendships, right? We know, when you're in high school, sometimes things just get blown out of proportion, and you don't want that to ruin all your great friendships. So.
And it doesn't just happen in high school.
Mm-hmm. So that's what we ended up going with for that one in terms of prototyping. We started mapping out what that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've given you an example of what a prototype looks like, we want you to, on your worksheet, write down an example of when maybe you built a prototype, even if it was something in your brain that you were thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I did something like this, or you saw somebody else prototype it.
I mean, we could be going back, you're 6 years old and you're playing with your Lego set and you design your dream car or your dream house, or with your Lincoln Logs or Tinker Toys, or you made a dress for your Barbie doll.
Yeah.
Hey, I designed my perfect dress for a Barbie doll. That's prototyping.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then after we do that too, you write down maybe what might be difficult for you in terms of prototyping. All right, so now that you've gotten a chance to write down some examples of when you've prototyped something or seen somebody else prototype something, as well as what you might find difficult, we're now going to move on to the final stage, which is testing. And I know we talked about this before. The testing doesn't have to be your final stage if you find you have to go back in and prototype, or sometimes you find that all of your solutions might have not been the best, and you have to go redraw the drawing board, right? Go back to defining the problem. So that might be something that you end up doing, but for the purpose of this one, we're not going to go redo everything. We're just showing you going through step by step. So for the last part, we decided to test our idea, refine it, figure out how can we make it better so that way it meets the needs of our end user, which in this case is teenagers. So we had our families try it out. We got a lot of valuable insight. Do you want to share some of that, Kim?
Well, yeah, one of the problems that my nephew found out is that he would send pictures to people and then they would screenshot it.
Oh.
So he thought it was going to disappear and then it was still ending up on social media.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So we may have to add something so that maybe it'll give you a warning.
Yeah, I mean that would be great, right? That would put the power back onto the creator of the picture. If somebody screenshots it, you automatically get a warning that they did that. So you get mad at your friend for saving those pictures for whatever reason.
So we would go back to prototype at this point with that and create a new prototype. Even the 8-year-old found it really easy to use.
See, and just kind of going through these conversations, getting some feedback from your peers, you can learn a lot of new things that are going to help improve your product. It's okay to go back a few stages and.
We actually call that failing forward, because when you learn something new that helps improve or make it better, it's not a failure. It's progress. So you're failing forward. Okay, yeah, this didn't work, but we learned something new to improve it and make it better.
So don't think about it as failure. Think about it as you're getting that much closer, right, to the right solution.
Exactly.
And then so now that we've given you an example of how we tested it out, we had our families use it, we identified some things that we can go back in and change with the prototype. We want you on your worksheet to actually identify some things that maybe you found through testing, whether you knew you were testing a prototype or not, right? Maybe your friend made their own car or drew something and they asked you to test it out and see how it worked.
Mom came up with a new recipe and had you try it. I don't know, maybe you're into trying to lose weight and so you're doing protein shakes and you made up something. I know Alejandro does that sometimes.
Maybe you have a whole new mixture, a whole new shake that you made up. So whatever that might look like, write it down. Also write down what might be tough about this stage in the process. And I know for me, Kim and I had already talked about it, and for me it's difficult to narrow down to just that one idea and figure out what's wrong with it, because I'm usually I can see people using this, right? So I think having just an extra person there or extra set of eyes is really helpful. So just jot down what you might have a hard time with. That way you going into it, you already know it and you're looking out for it.
Okay, so now we're back. So they're probably sitting here thinking, okay, we have to do this design thinking for this program that we're in, the Verizon Innovative Learning Design Thinking program. But this actually has so much more beyond just this programming in the classroom. There's a lot of different buzzwords out there, different industries use. Some people call this, or a similar process, Agile, Scrum. There's IDEO has a whole thing around it. There's just a lot of, you can hear it, some people just simply call it problem solving, creative problem solving, thinking outside the box.
Engineers use it.
Yeah.
The engineering design thinking process is very similar.
Yeah, so a lot of different industries, a lot of people are using this. This is definitely something that can go on your resume. And the great thing is if you're over 16 and you have a LinkedIn account, once you finish this program, you can even get like us to mark off that you're an expert in it. And it's a real skill that you can use out there in jobs. And it's not just app development or virtual reality.
These jobs pay a lot of money.
Oh, they do. They pay a
If you
lot.
like making money, right?
Oh, construction pays good money. If you're
Construction pays good money.
if you're doing like this designing that, because that would be like an architect, green architecture, also even being superintendents on job sites, management. These are all jobs that can pay really well. And don't think, oh yeah, I'm going to pick up a hammer and I don't have to do anything after high school. These are all skills that you do need post-secondary education. It may not require a degree, but they do require some classes, certification, and you should pursue that because that's what proves that you're an expert in them. Yeah, so this design thinking is something that can be used in any field. It can be used in science, it can be used in medical education, construction, computer science, landscaping. I don't care if you know, hey, my uncle has a landscape business and I'm going to go into that. You need design thinking. You want to be an auto mechanic? How do you think you're going to figure out how to solve those problems if you plug it in and the computer doesn't tell you? Trust me, you're going to have to use some design thinking to go out and figure out what's going on. There's actually a couple of careers. If you've ever heard UI or UX, UI stands for user interface, UX stands for user experience. Those are jobs that are around looking at apps and websites, and even when you call in on a phone and you have to try and get to talk to someone, those all use design thinking and figuring it out from the user. That's why it's called user interface and user experience, because for the first time a lot of these companies are finally starting to say, gee, wonder why the customers are leaving. Must be because we're not giving them what they want. Let's look at it from a customer's perspective. Those jobs make over $100,000 a year.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, just because you're an expert in design thinking. I mean, there's a little more to it than that, but not a whole lot, and this is a good way to get yourself started.
Well, thank you for listening to this video. We really enjoyed making it for you and enjoy interacting with you. Again, my name is Alejandro Lozano. My email is alozano7@asu.edu.
And I'm Kim Reynolds, and my email is kimberly.reynolds.1@asu.edu.
Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, and we will see you in the next video.